freckled. Kim, thank you for doing what you do with icuTalks. I just want to applaud the genesis of this, 7 years ago, and the lives that have been changed and shaped through this storytelling and through our brokenness, bringing beauty to this place and to this space. So I hope to do that tonight with you guys and sharing my story. I've always been the marrying type. I had other ambition. I wanted to be a professional soccer player. I wanted to be a famous photojournalist. But deep inside my heart, that was eclipsed by this desire to have a wife and a child. I just wanted a family. It was my deepest desire. I'm a quintessential pastor's kid. I grew up in the church my whole life and completely departed from everything that I was raised to know and to be. In college, I had a 5-year career of absolutely going the opposite direction to where I came to a place I denied God even existed. Somehow I had this tithing religion thing about me, like I couldn't not tithe, so I gave my money to Greenpeace back then and considered that my tithe. My wife makes fun of me for that. But inside, there was always that desire. And my college roommates would always like, Derek, is this the one? Jokingly, because everyone was the one. I didn't date because I just wanted to have fun. She's the one. Everyone was the one. And so, after all the ones went away, I was left with that place in my heart where it's like, no, I gotta find this perfect situation of being married and having a family. It's all I ever wanted. So I had a radical experience with God's grace after I graduated from college. I had hit rock bottom, literally hit rock bottom, to the point where I was fired from my job for coming in drunk and high. I went to wait on a table, said, hi, my name is Derek, I'll be your waiter, can I take your drink order? And then went back and hit the cooler and had some more wine, came back out, said, hi, my name is Derek, I'll be your waiter, and can I take your drink order? When I did it the third time, literally my manager came out, took my car keys and said, get out of here, you're done. I walked home that night, and 2 months later came to a place where I was absolutely broken, didn't know where my next dollar was coming from. I had graduated with this degree in journalism, which I had pursued. I couldn't find a job anywhere. I personally believe it's because I have a praying mom who was just making sure that God was getting me where he needed to get me. And at that point, it was complete and utter brokenness. So had this radical encounter with God's grace. Went to the porch at my apartment. Hadn't talked to my mom and dad in 2 years at that point. And had a cigarette in one hand, a beer in the other hand. Somehow I had money for that. I don't know why or how. We find a way, don't we? And I just started weeping. And I was like, God, if you are even real, would you please help me? I don't know what to do. And immediately, God's fear-melting love just overshadowed me. And it was almost like, oh, you've been here all along. I'm the one who turned my back. I'm the one who's been blind to your presence. You've been here all along. And I just heard in my heart, I heard 2 references, Matthew 6:33 and Proverbs 3:5 and 6. Those are Bible verses that I had learned as a kid, but I didn't remember what they said. Somehow I still had the references in my brain. And I went and found my Bible that my dad had given me for high school graduation. And in the front of the Bible, it said, son, I love you. Proverbs 3:5 and 6 and Matthew 6:33. Those references say that we are to seek first the kingdom of God and his righteousness. All those things will be added unto us. Trust in the Lord with all your heart. Don't lean in your own understanding, and he'll direct your paths. And all of a sudden, this overwhelming sense of God's grace and mercy came to me, and I realized I should probably call home. And I did. And I called home, and it's almost like my mom was expecting a call. And I found out later she had been like storming the house praying with some other prayer woman for my soul at that very moment. So thank you, old prayer women who are willing to give your time for people like me. Short version is I turned around and went to Bible school. I went to a seminary in Sweden that my mom and dad had helped found, and I needed to get out of the country. I needed to get away from friends. I needed to get away from everything. And it was there that I met Nikki. And Nikki and I fell in love. And Nikki and I were like, after the first semester, we knew beyond a shadow of a doubt, this is it. This is our life. We're going to get married. We're going to have a family, had similar interests, similar desires. And I was so in love and so thankful that my life had turned around and God had brought me on this path, and I felt like, okay, everything's coming together. And so in 1992, in August, we flew back to Texas after graduating from the seminary there, and we were married. And her family serves in a big ministry in Texas there, so we started working for this ministry. So here I am, coming out of this space of complete bottom-of-the-barrel brokenness to, okay, dreams are starting to come true. I'm going to get married. I got married in August of 92. We wanted to start a family right away, and they sent us to Vancouver, British Columbia to run their ministerial office in Vancouver. So we're living in Vancouver. She's pregnant. We're going to have a baby. I'm married. The dreams are starting to come alive. We went back to Fort Worth. She was 7 months pregnant. Little girl. We decided to name her Emily. And we were there for a big meeting that they have in Texas every year for this ministry. And we'd finished up the events from the evening, dinner. I was with my boss. He was driving a 15-passenger van. I was in the front seat. My wife was in the back, 7 months pregnant. His wife was in the back, also pregnant. And we were just talking about our lives and how things were coming together. And I turned and looked ahead, and immediately, before I could even think, we were hit head-on by a drunk driver. The van flipped up in the air. My wife was thrown underneath the van and crushed, slid for about 100 feet. When I got out of the van, it's a miracle any of us walked away. But I got out of the van, and I'm just, delirious, and what just happened? And I kicked out the window. My boss's wife had been thrown in the street in the back, and we ran back to where she was, and she was actually okay, just scraped up, and miraculous that any of us lived. But then it was like, Nikki, where's Nikki? And I ran back to the van, couldn't find her inside, and I realized at that moment she was crushed underneath the van. My last memory of her was reaching underneath the van and touching her dark black hair. And there was a pool of blood, and I saw her pregnant belly, and I realized at that moment my dreams are dead. My life is over. And it was a huge God, why moment. In fact, I would just invite you into asking that question often. And I would actually add, God, WTF, if you want to just escalate it a little higher. Didn't feel if it was appropriate to actually go through with that today, but I sat in the back of a police car. I watched them pull my wife in a body bag. And in my mind, I realized I don't know what to do, but I know I have to forgive. And I don't even know this person that hit us. I never saw him after that day. He was drunk, I found out later. And I chose in that night just to say, okay, I forgive this person. I'll never hold it against them. But it's not enough just to follow the procedure. There's work that needs to be done in your own life. Now, look, the story gets better. 2.5 years later, I met my wife, Sarah. Total amazing restoration. She is definitely the one. And I can say that confidently, that God can restore your life better than original. I don't know how that's possible, except that only God can do it. The best example I have is, when someone restores a 1957 Chevy, it came off the line in 57 as an awesome car, but you have better paint, better tires. God can do better than original in a human life. Only he can do that. And I had a lot to walk through that. And at that time, I had a spiritual leader at that time that I went to, and I came from a very strong faith community, which I also would say is a fake community in a lot of sense. Fake it till you make it kind of thinking. And I asked him, I said, what do I do? I'm 25 years old and this just happened to me. And he said, Derek, you just got beat at the game of life. Don't ever say that to someone who just went through what I went through. And I would encourage you, even where spiritual leaders are concerned in your own life, they're not the authorities on everything. Love is the authority on everything. Okay? So questioning why is okay. Oh, yeah, back to the story. 25 years later, I live with 3 women and a neutered dog. Someone had actually commented on Facebook about they're a Havanese fan. Are you here, Havanese fan? There you are. I have a Havanese. We can talk later. They're great dogs. Questioning why is okay. Doubt is not the opposite of faith. I think the sin of certainty is the enemy of faith. The sin of certainty is the enemy of faith. And I'm very skeptical of any leader that is so certain about everything and does not share their vulnerability or their limps or their pain, and that they've always had everything work out the way it's supposed to work out. And I would encourage you to do the same. Questioning God assumes this, though, and I want to introduce you to a new view of God tonight. I want to introduce you to a view of God that I have been questioning God why for a long time. And I have this view that has changed everything in my life. Because here's the thing. If God caused what happened to me that evening, or even if he let it pass through his hands, I don't want anything to do with that God. And I'm a pastor. Okay? And I can confidently say, if he was the author of steal, kill, and destroy, or he even allowed it to happen, I'm a father, I have 2 daughters. I would never deliberately cause pain, steal, kill, destroy to teach a lesson. I would never even let it pass through my hands. See, we have this image of God being in control. I'm here today to tell you God is love, and love never seeks to control. Now, I don't have... Thank you. Yes, God has not revealed to me his whole sovereignty versus this issue, but here's the one thing I know. God is love, and love never seeks to control another. And here's what I know about God, that Jesus is what God has to say about himself. When God wanted to reveal to us who he really was, he became one of us. So let's explore a couple really big questions real quickly tonight in these last few minutes. Before we do, I want you to pretend you're at a karaoke club, okay? Okay, good. I like this. So don't be shy. You're going to jump right out. You're going to belt it out. You're going to sing it. I'm going to sing a line to a song, and you're going to finish it. Ready? I'm not a good singer, but here we go. Ready? Don't stop believing. Oh my God, you guys nailed it. Look at this. Have you ever seen the video on the internet? I was trying to bring it in that place tonight, but there's a guy sitting on a bench, and he starts singing the Bon Jovi song, and he's in a park, and there's hundreds of people in the park, and he just starts singing, and eventually everybody is singing the song. Here it is, right here. Turn it up.
Make a difference if we make it all right. We got each other. We're not so not to lose. We'll give it a shot. Oh, lady. Oh, breathe on the breath in my head. We'll make it all safe. Oh, breathe on the breath.
Thank you. Love it. Don't you love that? Doesn't that just make you feel so good inside? He started off alone, and by the end of the song, everybody's singing that song. But here's my point. Here's my point about God in this, because we have a moment where Jesus on the cross said, my God, why have you forsaken me? I think some of the things we're talking about tonight are about being forsaken, feeling like God has forsaken us. And if it's true that God was the one pouring out his wrath and killing his son, once again, I don't want anything to do with that God. The Bible tells us God was in Christ reconciling the world to himself. My personal belief is that the God who could not die had to find a way to enter into death so he could enter our brokenness and delusion and bring us out. And in that moment on the cross, when he said, my God, why have you forsaken me? It's Psalm 22. That's the beginning line of Psalm 22. It's the prophetic verse about that moment. But that verse goes on and it ends saying, you will never forsake me. You will never leave my soul. You will bring me out. You will bring me up again. See, here's what I think Jesus was doing in that moment. He was starting the first line of the song. He knew what was happening. He knew his Father wouldn't forsake him. And he was saying to the people in that audience who knew Psalm 22, the moment they heard, my God, why have you forsaken me? That was them hearing, don't stop. Everybody knew the rest of the song. And it's like, wait. He's not going to forsake him. God's not punishing. God doesn't have retributive anger. God is restorative. And he was in Christ reconciling the world to himself. So when you answer that big question, God, why have you forsaken me? Remember, God never forsook. He never forsook Jesus. And I think any atonement theory, and once again, it is a theory that says it was God's wrath that had to be satisfied. Why do we want to serve a wrathful God? Well, you don't get to choose, Derek. Yeah, but Jesus wasn't wrathful. And he said, if you've seen me, you've seen the Father. Why do we let a view of God be different than the view we have of Jesus? This is something I want to just bring home to you guys tonight. The next big question I think that we need to ask is, God, why did you become human? Why did you become human? And I said it before, but I'll say it again. The God who could not die entered death the only way he could. He became one of us to rescue all of us. Why? Two huge reasons: empathy and compassion. God had empathy for us. God had compassion on us. Listen to Hebrews chapter 4, verses 14 through 16. I'm going to read the Message paraphrase. It says, now that we know what we have, Jesus, this great high priest with ready access to God, let's not let it slip through our fingers. We don't have a priest who's out of touch with our reality. He's been through weakness and testing, experienced it all but the sin. So let's walk right up to him and get what he is so ready to give. Take the mercy, accept the help. We have a God who knows what it's like to be you. And I want you to take that personally today. He knows what it's like to be you. He knows what it's like to be Jennifer struggling with the suicide of her father. He knows what it's like to be that little grandson being held in his grip, not knowing everything, but knowing that, okay, at least I'm safe and I'm going to see some animals here today. He knows exactly what you're going through, and he knows what it's like to be you. Excuse me. See, I think we've gotten something really wrong about affirming one another. It's a big term these days that we need to affirm one another in whatever identity they possess. But there's one identity God chose to affirm. Only one, and that's human. And he affirms you in your humanity. He affirms you because he became one of you. And everything else to me is like a subcategory that we're all just working out. Male, female, black, white, whatever it may be, gay, straight. Let's come to that place of saying, wait, but God jumped straight to the top and said, no, I affirm you because you're human. That's it. That's the end of the story. God is love, period. And if you've ever heard someone say God is love, but he's also holy, well, show me a holiness that's void of love, and I'll show you a Pharisee. Well, God is love, but he's also just. Is there an unloving justice? No. God is love, period. I think human affirming is the very gospel itself, because God became human. He became one of us to rescue all of us. The biggest question that I think you can ask is, why did you become human? And from the deepest, most broken place in your heart, you'll hear his reassuring voice whispering this one thing: because you're worth it. Because you were worth it. You
are worth it because you're intrinsically valuable as a human being. This is how we need to start seeing everyone on the planet. So where was God that deadly day when a young husband and soon-to-be father watched his whole life get wrapped up in a body bag and wheeled away on a gurney? He was inside, weeping through my tears. He was touched by the tragedy as if it were his own. And he was holding the darkness and carrying the grief and softly whispering, "I'm here, you're not alone." And I want you to hear those words tonight. I didn't hear the whisper that day. It's taken me a long time to begin to hear that whisper that he was there in that moment. But I want you to begin to hear it. Because when that deafness is healed and you recognize that unfamiliar voice, it'll become a shout in your own life that you can't help but share with others. You are not alone. This is our message. This is the voice that we carry. This is what we have to be reminded of again and again and again. We're not alone. Let me pray for you tonight.